Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day out there. It's always fun for me. Um, I'm excited to see people here already putting stuff into the chat. That's perfect. I appreciate that. We're going to dive into training pretty fast. Let me just make sure I'm good and live on LinkedIn. Forgot to start my phone. It's got like my routine. Come on, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Bear with me. All right. Okay, so I have to wait for the us to go live before I can get it on my phone so I can see that. I've got a lot to share today, so I'm going to go pretty fast because I have some pretty good tips that I think are going to help you as you try to get more emails opened, et cetera, as we go forward. So we're going to dive into that training today. But as we go along, do me a favor, engage in the chat. More people come in and you see them and they say hello. Say hello back. This is how we build our community out there. Okay, so let me switch my slides. I think we're good to go. So we're going to dive into today's training about how to get federal agencies to stop ghosting us, right? We send out emails and we don't hear back from them. And that's something we don't need, especially when everybody tells us that if you want success in the federal market, you need to build relationships, right? It's who you know or who knows you kind of thing. But if they're not responding back to us, then how can we build those relationships? This is the key area that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a customer that's not getting back to you. I'm talking about where you're trying to get into a new agency. For example, today, as we go through this, I'm going to be keeping in mind that I'm working with a customer and they've got a brand new initiative. They're going to be going into a lot of Army personnel, trying to knock on a lot of Army doors. And we have a targeting list of 200 people in the Army that they're going to start with. The goal is to have at least 10 or 20 good relationships, but you start with a big pool of people. Anyways, if we're reaching out to them, we need them to be able to respond back. We can't spam, and that's really important. I've done a lot of training before on how to make sure you're writing good emails from a quality standpoint. But today, I'm really talking about when you send a message to the federal buyer and they don't respond, right? When they don't respond, I had some fun putting in terms I've used over my career in sales, right? So the first one is ghosting. That's what I put into the title. Ghosting, I think, is something we're all just kind of familiar with. It's like they're like a ghost. They disappeared on us. But there's also another one I like is sounding. And sounding is a whale. So a whale's up on the water and you're like, oh, look at that. It's so cool. It's a whale. It's making some noise and blowing stuff out of its spout or whatever. And then it dives, and whales dive deep and they go way down. You no longer can see them or hear them. And you're looking around, you're like, come on, aren't they coming up? But no, they've sounded and they can stay down there a long time. And you're like, yeah, well, this is boring. Let's go on home kind of thing, right? That's sounding. When you reach out to somebody, you think you might get traction, and then they're not there or they're not coming back up. Or maybe you do hear from them, but all you're hearing is crickets, right? So that's never a good thing when you're hearing crickets. I talk about this a lot in RFIs where you send an RFI response and it goes into a black hole. It's the same thing with your email outreach where you're sending it in, it goes into a black hole and it's just sucking all of our communication in there, but it's not sending anything back, which is bad. And the last one, gone dark. It's my one of my favorite ones as well because you're looking in, they're home, but they turn the lights off. That's how I am on Halloween. I'm like turning all my lights off. I'm trying to hide in my own house. Yeah, I'm that grumpy neighbor. Okay, but there's things we can do, right? Getting people to open your email, getting federal buyers to respond when you do outreach, that's a skill set. And the way skills work is you gain the knowledge needed to develop the skill, and you make sure you have the right skill set in there, and you start practicing that over and over again. When you do that, you'll be able to increase it. And I'm going to give you some tips today on how to increase your skills around that. So we're going to talk about stopping the ghosting by federal agencies, getting these folks to start responding back. They really want to respond to you. And so we just got to convince them. I'm going to break up today's training into the reasons they might be ghosting us, right? That's how I decided to break up why federal buyers are not getting back to us when we're reaching out to them. So, the first thing is you're not looking credible to them. What does that mean? I'm going to go through that. They didn't see your email. By the way I prioritize these reasons is by the size of the sentence. That's the entire way I did it. I thought it would look nice if it flowed down. But they might be in different orders if I said the priorities, but they're all valid reasons. The third one is your emails, you appear too self-focused, or your emails are too long and dense, just too many words inside the email. Number 5, your subject line didn't stop the scroll. This would be my number one priority that's in there. And then the last one is you didn't give them a clear call to action. And that's really important out there, is that you have to be able to let them know what you want them to do. Thanks. I see people chatting in the chat. I don't read it too much, but I can see it going along, and I appreciate that. If you don't know who I am, by the way, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I am co-founder of GovCon in a Box, where we provide tools for your sales success. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. This is why I do this kind of training, and I welcome you to today's training. It's because I want you to have repeatable, predictable results in your outreach to federal buyers. When you're trying to start and build those new relationships, how do you have a process that's going to help you have a predictability of the amount of people coming back and saying, sure, let's talk, let's have a quick meeting. I'll give you a quick story just on exactly, I do exactly what I teach. This is why it's so easy for me to come up with topics, because I'm just teaching you what I'm doing with my customers, or sometimes for my customers. But an example is I'm trying to get into this one agency, and I've got, 30 people I've been juggling, and I can't have a list of 100 because the people I'm trying to reach, frankly, are like Doge level and Trump administration appointees. So it's a very small group, but I'm reaching in. And finally yesterday, because I kept following what I'm going to teach you in a minute, I was able to get in and talk with somebody who then gave me all sorts of insight, but then said, well, what you really need to do is talk to this person. Not only are they similar, but they actually are heading up the whole thing you want to do. I was like, I didn't even know who they were. And so that is why it's so important for us to get in. And that's why it's so important for me to be here today teaching you about getting the federal buyers to stop ghosting. It's not just I make it a little fun, right? But it's not just a funny thing. It is your job. And I want to help you be able to do your job in a successful way. Actually, part of what we're talking about, I'll talk later, credibility. But one of the ways you can be credible is to be visible to federal buyers. And so I created something called the Federal Visibility Score, which you can find your score on govconinabox.com. It's a score of 1 to 100. How visible are you to federal buyers? I just want to congratulate the companies that are in the 100 club already. These are people who have done what they need to do on the federal buyers' tools, on the government's tools, to be visible to them. It's free. Go check it out, govconinabox.com. You'll find your profile. You'll see a score. Click on it. I give you guidance on what to do. But make sure you get in there and check it out. Okay, we got about 22 minutes, and I've got, I think, 7 slides. I got a lot of slides on this one, but really good tips on here. First thing I want to do before I talked about, what you can do to stop ghosting or stop getting federal agencies to ghost you, et cetera, is I want you to understand the bell curve. And here I call it the email open rate bell curve. This bell curve actually comes from something called the technology adoption. So this idea, if you look at innovators, and let me make this a little bigger for you. If you look at innovators, and let's use the iPhone as an example really quick. If a brand new iPhone comes out, there's going to be innovators. These are going to be people sleeping outside the day before in a tent so they can get the very first iPhone. And then there's going to be early adopters. And my wife kind of falls into this one where she'll show up at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. She's not going to kill herself to get there, but she's going to be there getting it in that first day or two. So these are early adopters. And Apple can count on them. They're going to buy an iPhone to my bank account's demise or whatever. And then there's this early majority. And these are the people who want to wait to see what that new iPhone looks like. Maybe they're going to wait until their plan is renewed and they'll get a new iPhone, et cetera. And that's 34%. And so this is the left side of the bell curve. And those are basically yeses. Yes, I'm going to get the iPhone. And then on the other side, late majority, they won't get it until they're, they have to because they're getting a new plan or something that's in there. They're only going to be pushed into that. And then laggards. I'm a laggard on an iPhone. I won't get a new iPhone unless this iPhone breaks and they won't give me the old version, then I will never get the newest version. I'll always try to get something else. I'm a creature of habit when it comes to the iPhone. On other areas, I'm an innovator. right? And so we're all like that. Sometimes we're an innovator on something, sometimes we're a laggard. And so for what I want you to understand about emails is when you send emails out to federal buyers, some of them are going to be innovators and some of them are going to be early adopters. You're going to send an email like the one I finally hit yesterday. When I sent it to this one person, I got a response back in an hour. They're like, oh, totally, let's talk. Well, that makes them an innovator. Sometimes they're an innovator because they're just willing to engage. Other times, and also I had wrote my message apparently in a really good way that got it. But the other reason is maybe they want what you're selling. So if I call and say, hey, I'm calling to introduce us and we do American Sign Language. And they're like, oh my God, I was just literally about to go find an interpreter. Let's talk. That's an innovator. And the reason I'm saying this is keep in mind, at least half the people you reach out to are never going to respond. It's just the way it is. And so it's a numbers game. We're not trying to get you to get 100% open rate or response rate. What we're trying to say is if you send 100 emails out, you should be getting at least 16 back from people who say, hey, let's talk. That's the bell curve. If you understand what I just was saying there, put bell curve rocks in the chat. Let me know you're following along with that because that really is fundamental to all aspects of sales. Okay, while you're putting bell curve rocks in the chat, let's start with the first reason that maybe we're being ghosted. And it's because we're not credible or we don't look credible. This is an appearance thing. And there's a line out there, perception is reality. However people perceive me, that's their reality of who I am. It doesn't matter what I think no, I'm 6'4" or something. It's like, well, I perceive you at under 6 feet. So in your business side, if you're sending an email and you've got a Gmail account, that's an automatic credibility hit. And an easy fix, just go get a domain. I buy domains every time I have an idea. They're like $12. And if you find yourself going out to eat at fast food or restaurants, then you can afford to buy a domain. Get an email domain. And when you buy it from somewhere like GoDaddy or whatever, they're going to have a little hosting package that will help you build a quick little site. If you don't know how to do that, literally for under $100, you can build a really good site. You don't need to build a billion-dollar company's website for your company. The second reason that can hit your credibility is just the email looks messy. It's sloppy. The formatting is messed up or the just glaring errors in there. It's just all choppy, or maybe it's one big block of text or something. Just ask your local small business development center for feedback, right? You've heard of PTACs or these Apex accelerators, but there's a level separate from that called the Small Business Development Centers, SBDCs. And these people are there to help us small businesses. So just reach out, schedule a meeting, get introduced and say, you mind if I bounce my emails off you? And see, you can ask anybody, ask a friend, etc. Just don't ask me first. Ask me last. I'm happy to help, but start with 10 other people first. The third one, poor or no web presence. And I kind of alluded to this a minute ago with the domain. When you get a domain like nancyco.com, then go build a federally focused website. It could literally be one page, and the top menu just has sections like about us and our clients, some information about the services we provide, and the a little bit of expansion on if I do data analytics. Here's a little paragraph or bullets about data analytics. Well, you can have that on one page, and literally you could go to somebody and pay $25, $50 on something called Fiverr.com. Fiverr, I think, .com. Somebody put that in the chat, would you? But just go get that website built. That lends to credibility, because if you reach out to try to get a meeting and I look and you don't have a website, or your website is just blah, then I'm like, I'm not going to respond. The next one is you're not on LinkedIn. This is really important. LinkedIn is the professional networking place. If you're doing business in the federal government, you should have a LinkedIn profile, and that LinkedIn profile should represent you well. And I don't need to give you a ton of tips here, but make sure it has a good photo. It's got a banner that says what you do. It has your capability statement in there and a couple of other things that you can look at. Just go to Google and type in, how do I create a quick LinkedIn profile? What do I need to change? And there's a bazillion of us who give you advice. Cecilia, I know, my sister, Cecilia McDonald, you'll see her in chats sometimes here. She does that. She also does consulting on that. You can ask her, but she'll tell you the same thing as me. Go look at her free tips first, because that'll get you 80% of the way. Okay, let's talk about the next thing. And this is a big one, right? They didn't see your email. When you're sending an email and you're not getting a response, don't take it personally. Sometimes they didn't even see it. And I would say it's at 80%. rule. 80% of the people don't see your email. And of course, that's a guess because there's zero way I can tell. Even open rates don't matter at all technically, because sometimes I hit an email just to get to the next one and it opens the one I didn't want. And so that, those numbers change. But here's what you do to make sure you're changing that. Follow up. I say at least 30 times. I have a whole roadmap where I talk about how often should I follow up. People ask me, can I follow up too frequently? No, not really. As long as you're being professional, kind, and courteous, right? In your emails, you'll be fine. You follow up every 2 days, let's say. You switch it back and forth between a voicemail and an email. That'll be fine. And my second bullet there is follow up with a voicemail. Hey, John, I left you an email. I just want to bring it to the top of your inbox or just mention it. Love to connect. Quick voicemail. I don't tell them anything really, except for I'm just following up to an email. I'd love to get on your radar. Love to get on a calendar. Check whether you're hitting the junk folder. And what I mean by this is find somebody else within that agency you're trying to get into and say, hey, can I send you an email? And you tell me whether it goes to the junk folder or it goes to the inbox. That's a simple test. You could try try small business specialist. Literally, if I was going to try it, I might go into FPDS, pull up some opportunities in FPDS, and it's got a couple of contracting officers, and I might just reach out with a quick question about that opportunity to see if they respond. And if they respond, and I'll keep it related to what I'm trying to do. But if they respond, it's a way for me to reach out to somebody I don't know, but I know I can get a quick response because I don't want a meeting. I just want to ask this, some simple question. And then the other thing is, if they're not seeing your emails and you're sending them in the morning, send them at noon, send them in the afternoon, move them around. Whatever you do, don't send them like middle of the night type thing. You really want to try to target it to when they're starting work, having a cup of coffee, having lunch. Those kind of things are good sales tactics. Okay, so this next one on why you're getting ghosted by federal buyers, why they're not responding to your emails, is about self-focus. Your email appears to be self-focused, too self-focused, right? It's okay to have a little self-focus, but too self-focused means you're all about you and not talking about them. You're not thinking about them, and the email is very obvious. You're talking about your company and you're saying, hey, we do all this kind of stuff. We're an SDVO, we're on Seaport and GSA Mass, et cetera. And basically it just looks like it's almost worse than a capability statement, which is at least a marketing document. This is just too much about you. And really, when you're reaching out to try to get a meeting, the very first thing you're trying to do is convince people that you care about them. And the way to show that is to talk about them, not talk about you, right? You can talk about you later, especially when the sales leads them to start asking you about you. So when you send emails, talk about the mission, do a little bit of research on their website about what's their mission, look at their strategic plans and understand their priorities, their goals for the next year, the next 4 years, et cetera, and reference those priorities. I like to say, put a piece of value in that very first sentence, right? When you write that first sentence in an email, talk about how we can help, right? I was reading your strategic plan. We can really support priority goal number 3. I'm keeping that really small. I would expand that just a little bit to say what that goal is so that it, they recognize it right away as theirs. But make sure you're focused on them and not being self-focused. Hey, before I move on to the next few that we have, I wanted to thank our sponsors for these lives. We do these lives pretty much every day. And these sponsors are ones that help us make it happen. I want to thank Graham Inc. They do staffing support and American Sign Language Services, ASL services. KZO Consulting, they recent sponsor of ours. They do fractional finance and contract subject matter expertise. Actually, you can find them in the marketplace on GovCon in a Box that we have over there, govconinabox.com/marketplace. And in there, companies like Graham and KZO will have these videos. Steel Toe Consulting, or Steel Toe, they do cybersecurity and CMMC support. So if you're doing any kind of work in DoD in particular, talk to Steel Toe about your plans for getting CMMC certified or CMMM certified, whatever that is. And then GovCon in a Box, that's us. We have our whole sales tool set, a lot of free tools over there, but we also have a really robust CRM, and we just rolled out a new requirements gap analysis tool that is my favorite thing about what we offer, because it really just helps you find and identify the right opportunities for your company so that you're not spinning your wheels on the ones that are not out there. All right, thanks to our sponsors. Check them out and thank them. Okay, so let's talk about this next one. And it's funny, I got, not that I need to share my challenges here, but some reason I get my, on my tools that I'm using, it hides the title of my slide. I'm like, the heck's the title? Anyways, that's my problem, not your problem. All right, so your email is too long and too dense. It just has too many words in it, and we're not going to read it, right? First off, one of the problems with having too much text in there is whatever's important will get lost. The more stuff you have in an email, the more chance that somebody's going to focus on what's not important instead of what is important to you. So we call that burying the lead. What do you actually want from this email? You're sending an email, and David, I'm with you. But so your lead, what you want to make sure that's really visible. Second thing is, everyone skims these days, and nobody reads. Even me, who loves to read, and I read a lot of stuff, my first thing I do when I'm looking at emails, et cetera, is I go fast. And so you want to understand that. And I talk about it in a second, but it's like social media. And the other thing, and this is the worst, because this is you reaching a buyer who wants to help you and engage, but they go, wow, that email's too long. I want to give it the time it deserves. I'm going to come back to it. But then they never come back to it because, 10, 20, 50, 100 other emails push it down in the inbox, and they're never going to get to it because there's always something that's important. And what you want to do with your emails is keep them the opposite of long and dense. Short and sweet might be something nice. So make it like social media posts. When you think about social media, those posts are designed to be pretty small. We're trying to give you one idea that we speak to. The sentences in your email, make them 150 characters, right about that. Anything more than 150 characters, you're starting to get too long. But 150 characters, then somebody can read that like that, like very fast. They can read that, and read that. And if you have 3 to 4 sentences, literally you're talking about an email they could read in 10 seconds, right? And that's what you want, because it allows them to get to the meat of what you have and then reject you or don't reject you on the quality of your email. And we'll talk about that in a second. The last thing is get rid of your flowery signature lines. I don't mean to insult it. I just mean it's friction to the buyer. You don't want to distract anybody's eyes away from really the most important thing in your email. And when you're trying to do these initial outreach emails, your most important thing is, I want a meeting. Will you give me the meeting, right? And so anything else, it distracts them. It's okay to put some basic stuff like, hey, we're an STVO or 8A in your signature line as words, not logos. And then get rid of every picture out of your email is my recommendation to you. Every one of them takes time for me to look at and go, what's that? Oh, they won this thing. Like me, I'm dismissive, but that's okay because I'll go back to your email. The worst ones who get interested because you got a logo, and they're like, oh, let me go check out this. You won the best bull rider of 2024 or something, whatever. And I go exploring that instead of doing the email action that I want. So don't make your emails long and dense. Keep them short and sweet. All right, this is huge, right? This is very big in social media, and this is very big in emails because emails are just like social media. We have this whole big feed, and we're going through. On social media, it's whatever thumbnails and everything people do, and on emails, it's subject lines. Subject lines are what we are rolling through really fast, right? And you want to stop the scroll. That's the term from social media, like on LinkedIn or Facebook or something. You want people who are doing this to go, oh, what's that? And so you have to figure out what that is. I have found that when I put org charts out, it stops the scroll. People stop and they look and they go, do I care about that agency? So you want to stop the scroll. Federal agencies are getting tons of emails. Federal buyers are getting tons of emails. And it's really important that when they see your subject line, which should be 50 characters or less, it immediately makes them stop and open it. That's the only purpose of that line there, right? And so some reasons on why you're not stopping the scroll, or when they look at it, they don't open your email. It's because the subject line is boring or it's unrelatable. They look at it and they can't see themselves in that email. And maybe really you can help them, but because your subject line doesn't make that clear, they move on, or it's confusing, right? They look at it and they're like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And literally, I went back and looked at my inbox and just confirmed that that's exactly what I see. Some emails make me open it. I'm like, and once I open it, I'm like, oh, I didn't want that. But the subject line was really good, right? And other subject lines have something I really want to see, but because it's poor, I bypass it. The only reason I actually come back to it is because I might recognize the person's name and go, well, let me look at that. Here's some things you can do to make your subject line a little popular, right? I don't need it to be like Twitter or Facebook or something where it's that hooky, that clickbaity, but you basically are trying to get them to click on it, right? And open the email. So mention their agency, their mission, or the project they're working on. For example, I told you we're going to be reaching out to Army installations to start, and the people we're going to try to reach out to are public work type folks. And so we're going to have to create a subject line that they care about. So that won't be an agency thing. It'll be more about what would a public works director, what would click with them? What would spark their curiosity or make it relevant to them, make this email seem relevant to them? And I already said 50 characters. Last thing is make it specific, not clever. And this is really important. You don't have to get fancy. Even on social media, they used to teach clever, and then they got clever themselves and realized it is better to be really specific. Do you want to lose 50 pounds in the next 30 days? Well, that might be too much, actually. Do you want to make $50 in the next 30 days? Those kind of things are very specific. They don't have to be clever. And if you click in and you can find out how to make $50, then that is a perfect email. And that's what you want, is something that's specific. And when they open it up, they go, it is something I care about. And that's the thing about my advice that I'm giving you is I'm not trying to get you to get people to open emails or respond to you who aren't a good fit for you. I'm trying to get the ones who are a good fit and they're just not responding, but they should know that they want to talk with you. How do we improve our email writing to get it? All right, so the last one is you didn't give them a call to action, a clear call to action that tells them what to do. And that's really important, right? It's your email. You're the one with a want. You have to respect them. You have to provide value and make sure that's important. But you know what you want. And usually in this first email, you want to meet it. I'd like to get 10 to 15 minutes of your time. That's all I ever ask for, because then I can get a second meeting. But have that clear call to action. I put here that passive emails, if you're just wishy-washy, are going to get passive results. An example of passive is, let me know if you're interested. That's a weak line or sentence in your email. You want a strong call to action that is clear, specific, and low friction. What we mean by this is you want to eliminate as much friction as you can between the minute they see your email and your call to action and them doing it. And so an example I have here, earlier in the email, I said, hey, the reason I'm reaching out is because I want a meeting, something like that, right? But at the very last sentence, I say, and I don't have a ton of sentences, but the last sentence is, I'm available Tuesday to Thursday at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. if convenient. I get 80% plus people who respond who pick one of those dates and times. The reason that's really good is because I removed the friction. I enabled them to just choose instead of having to go, coordinate with me on different days or times type thing. And so you want to think about that. Is my call to action clear? Is it specific? And is it really easy to do, that low friction? Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First thing is just check if you're in the junk folder. I don't want you doing a lot of extra work on the email subject line and body if you're going into spam or if you're going into the junk folder, right? So reach out to somebody in that agency you're trying to get into and ask them, hey, call them up and say, can I send you a quick email? I just want to see if it's going in. If you're not comfortable doing that, get comfortable. You're in sales, you want the meetings, do it. I'm experienced and I have a little anxiety, even if I go to do that, but no one ever chops your head off. No one. No, they don't even get mad. Second thing is evaluate your email based on the tips I gave. Talk to the SBDC if you need some advice. I've done at least 100 trainings, so you can go watch my replays on emails and getting in the door, etc. And the last thing is if you're not hearing back, if they're ghosting you and you feel good about the quality of your emails, then follow up, right? Success is in the follow-up when it comes to sales. Follow up with the voicemail, follow up with the emails. Don't stop. Be persistent, yet professional, right? Don't stop. You want that meeting. Okay. Don't forget to check out GovCon in a Box. Check out your visibility score. Check out what we offer over there. And just remember, for the rest of today and as you move forward, having success with federal agencies, Government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training. Oh, by the way, the next training is 3 tips to building those relationships. So I'd love to see you in that. Make sure you go register. All right.